can be seated, please be seated. The Honorable Santia Bradshaw, Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Ms. Jeanette Phillips, Chief Education Officer, Mrs. Karen Bess, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Dr. Ramel Springer, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Princess Lovell Chandler, Senior Education Officers in the Ministry of Education, students, ladies and gentlemen, a blessed good morning to you. First, let me welcome you to this, the official unveiling of the Living Art Wall here on the Ministry's compound. And to get our proceedings off to a blessed start, I'm going to invite Mr. Junior Burgess, the Director of the Information Technology and Quality Assurance Unit, to offer a word of prayer.
Good morning. Can we stand, please? Our God and Father, we give you thanks for a beautiful day. We are thankful for life. We give thanks, God, for the creative gifts that you've bestowed on our students, the teachers, and also resource persons who are responsible for designing this creative art piece, which will be revealed today. We ask that you will continue to bless these persons. We also invite your blessings on our proceedings. In Christ's name, amen.
Please be seated. Permit me also to recognize the presence of the CEO of the National Cultural Foundation, Ms. Carol Roberts. In celebration of the 2018 Education Month, the idea of the creation of a living art wall was proposed as one of the key activities for that celebration. Today's unveiling ceremony will see evidence of our creative students at work. 12 of our students who were originally supposed to be part of the project, eventually they became 11, from across our secondary schools, designed and painted a mural which basically reflects not only their creativity, but really exhibits a significant part of the talent associated with the theme which we had for Education Month, which involved STEAM. Now, the arts component of STEAM is a significant component of the overall curriculum and development of our young people. And today, we will witness the evidence as depicted by our young people. To get our proceedings off to a more interesting start, I wish to invite our Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Jeanette Phillips, to offer remarks. Please welcome Mrs. Phillips.
Honorable Minister Bradshaw, Senator Ramel Springer, Ms. Karen Bess, Chief Education Officer, Dr. Roderick Roger, the Deputy Chief Education Officer responsible for planning and development. Let me also acknowledge the presence of the Chief Executive Officer from the National Council Foundation. We're so glad that you made it possible to be here this morning. Thank you for coming. Let me say good morning to our young artists and our master muralists. Also to Mrs. Dawn Small, teacher who was there to give guidance. staff of the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, specially invited guests, members of the media, a very special good morning to all of you. I have watched the artists with keen interest over the past weeks as they poured out their passion on creating what we shall view in a few moments. And let me say, I was really, really impressed. The chief and I on evenings, we kind of leave together, we're a little tag team. And every evening when we came out, we saw these young people all immersed and so enthusiastic. And I, who know nothing about painting, felt so much great joy to see them so enthused and doing the very best that they could do. So I was extremely, extremely impressed with you. The Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training is honored to be associated with the caliber of young persons from our fifth and sixth forms who have poured in their passion and enthusiasm and have collaborated on a vision for education and national development in a very tangible way. Given our renewed focus on STEAM education and our vision for the creative economy, I am moved to acknowledge that Barbados is in good hands, as evidenced by the collaboration of the different stakeholders to give effect to this project. Let me express my sincere appreciation to the Chief Education Officer and her team for the conceptualization, planning, and execution of this event. As Permanent Secretary, I pledge my continual support to ensuring that the technical and administrative sides work hand in glove, because in some ministries that doesn't happen, but the chief and I, we have a different relationship to that. We both need each other for success in this ministry. So I pledge my continued support, and so we can work together not only in expanding the vision for technical and vocational education and training, but in exceeding the aspirations for that sector. So without any further ado, let me once more welcome you here today as we sit in anticipation of the viewing of this masterpiece created and executed by our very own. Thank you. Master Ceremonies.
Thank you, PS. At this time, we're going to call on two of the student representatives who will share their experiences with you during the process of painting the mural. I will now call on Alexi Toppin and Hassan Roberts to share their experiences.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Thank you all for being here and bearing with me. I promise I won't take too long. As today I am going to be sharing a few of my memories and experiences while taking part in the mural project. Having the opportunity to work with so many talented individuals was very insightful. I got to learn a few new techniques and was exposed to various art styles. Speaking of which, I remember a day before any of the official painting began, a group of us sat down and were talking about each other's art pieces. We had our phones in hand, eager to show off our best work. We sat there for about 2 hours discussing the different techniques and media we had used. We were also happy to have new people to show off our creations with. There and then I could tell they were as passionate about art as I was, and it was the start of a new friendship. The living art wall. Though the experience was fun from start to finish, it wasn't without its challenges. One of those challenges being the sheer size. My first time experiencing this was the first day of painting. That day I was ready. I started immediately with brush in hand and paint in palette. I was painting and painting, having a blast. Then I began to feel a burning sensation. I looked around and realized, well, it isn't that hot. Not knowing it was my shoulders ready to give up on me. This was strange to me. I had never painted myself to exhaustion before. But over time, I got used to the pain and got to a point where I never noticed it again. I don't know if it was the playful jokes my now new friends and I were cracking or the brilliant guidance of the teachers. What I do know is I'm very grateful to them for all they have done for me, for their dedication, for all the early mornings and late evenings and long weekends. I'm especially grateful for the efforts of Mr. Don Small, who was the head of this whole operation. I thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience with us and for making and for walking with your big heavy bag of tools every morning. Without you, this mural would not be as successful as it is. We, the students, also want to thank the Ministry of Education for taking steps to include the arts in the STEM model. This is exactly what we aim to reflect in the mural. In conclusion, I'm very grateful to have had this opportunity to work on such a beautiful project with such a wonderful team. I will cherish the new memories and experiences as I'm sure the lessons I've learned will benefit me later on in life.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. Um, well, I don't usually write down what I'm gonna say, but it's okay. I would like to thank everybody for coming here this morning. I'm pretty sure you all have busy lives, but that's okay. So, when I first got here, my teacher from Springer, Miss Koff Roberts, told me, "Oh, I'd like to choose you to do this mural for the Ministry of Education." I didn't think much of it, but when I got there and I saw this huge room full of other students, it's like, okay, this is a lot more serious than I thought. And when we actually started after combining our personal ideas of the theme, specifically the art section of it, it was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. It was a lot more interesting too because all of us were kind of scared at first because it's way different than painting on canvas. Canvas is simple and we got so tired after so many long days. Sometimes mornings, sometimes weekends, and it was tiring, but it was very much worth it. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming here and sponsoring us. Oh, sorry. Okay. Hello? Yeah. I'm a little nervous. Yeah, right. So I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to come here and see our hard work. Thank you.
The excellent work that you will witness in a few minutes could not have been completed without the guidance and assistance of an expert. And at this time, I wish to invite the lead muralist, Mr. Don Small, who would have provided guidance to the students to come to the podium and deliver his remarks. Thank you.
With protocol already established, I want to say good morning to everyone. I'm going to say what I have to say first slowly. If this mural were a paid commission or job, it would serve to show as a perfect example of what school, in my opinion, is all about. Um, it made the direct connection of teaching and learning in what I would say, what we try to do in school as art teachers, try to connect what children do in school to a job. I think that for the most part, that is missing. We try to, in school, we try to encourage children to leave school with certificates. Need the rest. All right, thanks. We try to encourage children to leave school with certificates, but sometimes there's not a connect with those certificates and a job. I know for the most part, there are things put on by career showcases and so forth, but I think that it can actually go a little further. And I'm going to encourage the managers of the ministry, the managers of the school at some point in time, and you can start even with these students here, to invite them in and say, this is what I do, this is what I've done to get here. And I give it a title somewhere inside what I have written, meaning exactly these, I think they're 11 students, invite them into the ministry. This is my job, this is what I do, this is what I've done to get here. These are the certificates, or this is the journey that I've taken to get to this point. Because as an art teacher, and I believe all art teachers, we do not teach students to become an artist because it's almost impossible to live as an artist in Barbados. But we try to teach a well-rounded child or student that they can survive sometime in the future, having more than one skill. And we are not selfish as art teachers, because I know there are some teachers who try to grab the best students in the school, probably for their particular area. But I don't think, as for me as an art teacher, I do not do that. Do good in everything. And there's an example I give in Professor Fraser, who's a professor, but he's still an artist. He has a passion for art. He draws and he actually collects. Adrian Richards, who's a dentist, but his art form is photography. He's a professional dentist, but he still have the arts. And I'm going to encourage you all as students. You don't have to be a professional artist, but you can be anything else in the world. Whether you are the Minister of Education, you're the Parliamentary Secretary, Permanent Secretary, whatever the case may be, but you can still do art. For me, as an artist or teacher, I try to live, practice by example, meaning I teach and I still produce artwork. And I want to encourage my colleagues, those who are here, Jean Prescott Bulling from the law school, Chantel Fergus, Queen's College, Petrie Haynes from Parkinson, Nicolai Charles, Graydon Seeley, Carrie Ann Holder, Grantley Adams, and John Walcott, who I haven't seen, who has been here, from Graydon Seeley, and also Natalie Atkins, who paid us a visit. What I'm going to encourage you to do, and all our teachers who will probably hear this, is to actually do some practice. Not only teach, but do some practicing so that the students will have an example. Oftentimes, we get there, we just direct, but we don't show them exactly what we do. But this mural is a perfect example in terms of teachers working along with you, and you have that firsthand experience. And I don't think I have much more to say, but hopefully the little thought that I give for the managers of the school and the ministry to invite the students in and let them know exactly what you do or what you have done, the journey that you have taken to get to this particular point, so we will have a greater connection between what we do in school, the certification, and the actual job. I thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Small. At this time, I would want to invite the students to be recognized and to stand in front of the audience so that you can be appropriately recognized and they will get to see all of you. Could you please come forward? stand across the front of this stage. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. You can go back. You can return. Building excellence in education through STEAM continues to be a highly motivating factor during this period of celebration. While it has been extended into the month of November, just a few days before independence, it is indeed a privilege and an honor to invite another of our secondary students to perform for us. In this particular case, Julia Boyce will perform a solo for us at this time.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The song that I will be singing for you today is entitled Hero. There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer. If you reach into your soul, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. It's a long road when you face the world alone. No one reaches out a hand for you to hold. You can find love if you search within yourself, and the emptiness you had will disappear. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. Lord cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. That a hero lies in you.
Let's have another round of applause for Julia. There's a lot of talent in our schools. We have to appreciate that as opposed to the negative that we see so often. At this time, our attention turns to our Honorable Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, who have delivered remarks at this, the official unveiling of the Living Art Wall. Minister.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Ms. Jamette Phillips. Chief Education Officer, Ms. Karen Bass. Deputy Chief Education Officer, Planning and Development, Dr. Roderick Rudder. Other ministry officials, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Cultural Foundation, Ms. Carol Roberts. Principals, teachers, students, parents, specially invited guests, members of the media. Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning. Let me, at the outset, say to you that I am extremely pleased to be here this morning with you, and all of those who have spoken before me have spoken to a journey over the last few weeks of watching the students across the secondary schools of Barbados who are here with us today take time to prepare themselves for this unveiling of this living art wall. I received, when I was overseas, even pictures from the permanent secretary, the parliamentary secretary, Dr. Rommel Springer, very excited as to what was unfolding on the ministry's premises. Also, the reports as I would come in, I would hear the chief and the permanent secretary also speaking to the excitement that was taking place downstairs in the car park as students and certainly the teachers were working together for this significant occasion. While we are in November, we are at the beginning of November and in Independence Month, we have taken the opportunity in the ministry to extend our month of activities, primarily because while we are led by a tradition of ensuring that we celebrate the month of education, we also feel very passionately that education is ongoing. And in so doing, there's no time that will stop us from celebrating the artistic expression of our young people whom we represent in the Ministry of Education. And I think it is particularly important that today, as we gather here, that we are in the month of November, and it is significant that this event is actually taking place as we celebrate another year of our country's independence. So as you gather with me this morning to witness this historic event on the grounds of the, I will say, the palatial grounds of the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, I ask you to reflect on the words of an old Sunday school chorus which states, "It only takes a spark to get a fire going, and soon all those around will warm up to its glowing." It is hoped that today's signature event, the unveiling of this living art wall, and let me just tell you that we have described it as a living art wall. I was speaking to my colleagues this morning and I said to them, a living art wall also requires that you have some greenery in the depiction with the art. So I expect that we're going to continue to build on what is going to be unveiled here today in terms of bringing what has been brought to life today even more to life in the weeks and months that are ahead of us. It is hoped that today's signature event can contribute significantly to a spark here at the Ministry of Education. We are intending to ignite that spark, and we continue to pursue and to build excellence in education through STEAM. Now, I recall when I first came to the ministry, it was actually STEM. And I think the chief and others realized that they could not have a minister who was so heavily involved in the arts and not expand STEM to include a component of the creative arts as well. And so I am pleased that my passion has certainly been shared by others in this ministry as well, in embracing the arts, not just the creative side in terms of the artistic and the visual, but certainly also embracing the musical component of arts within this month of activities and certainly within our educational system. This initiative, born out of the month of Activities for Education Month for 2018, signals our realization as a ministry that there are diverse pathways to learning. It confirms that the creative arts must be urgently moved away in our thinking from being perceived as simple decorative strategies and activities to augment learning to viable and rich avenues for facilitating student growth and for driving national development. According to the Partnership for 21st Century Learning, education in the 21st century must prepare our students for the workforce of the present and the future through the development of specific skills and competencies. These include skills in critical thinking, communication, collaboration, team building, creativity, and innovation. While these are regarded as the necessary life skills or tools for the successful navigation of our increasingly complex and conceptual societies, the arts can provide an exciting and enjoyable platform for the honing and development of such skills. And I'm sure the testimony given by the two students this morning would allude to that fact. Through collaborative art projects like this living art wall or mural, our students can be given the opportunity to conceptualize personal, national, and global themes which are relevant to their lived experiences and which should in turn bolster their creativity and powers of articulation and conceptualization. I'm sure that as we prepare to witness this historic unveiling, our collective consciousness will be both sharpened and impressed by our students' ability to reflect on our past, speak to the Barbados they are currently experiencing, while also imagining the Barbados of the future. Artistic endeavors like these must, therefore, be appreciated because of their multifaceted nature and their intrinsic value. Art can speak to social issues. It can beautify surroundings, develop discipline, fine-tune skills, encourage innovative thinking and introspection, while providing the opportunity for income generation. Shafang describes the art classroom as a space in which imagination and ideas are encouraged, where different viewpoints are discussed, and where experimentation, playfulness, risk, and mistakes are considered part of the learning process. This observation concretizes the value which art can play in shaping a new national consciousness, which respects diversity and inclusiveness. And I want to take the opportunity to certainly endorse the comments of Mr. Small in relation to the inclusion, certainly, of telling the story about people who have succeeded in the arts, certainly including our students in being able to tell their story of the process through which they have been able to participate in this process, and also to be able to inspire other art students to be able to play a part, not just at the Ministry of Education and depicting these themes in this particular mural, but I feel very passionately that we must also now start an exercise across our schools, encouraged no doubt by the private sector and for their support, where we have art teachers and students working together to beautify their school environment as well. Because we have a common problem across our schools where we complain that the students sometimes are defacing the property, people vandalize the property. But I do believe that no greater pride can be found from students actually, creating positive images of reflection of their own Barbados and their own lifestyle on the walls of the cream colored structures that we now see exist. The cream color makes for defacing, I must tell you, because it is not attractive. It doesn't stimulate a positive environment for students. And so I would hope over the course of the next couple of years that we can certainly encourage art teachers working with the private sector in communities and across Barbados to get involved in exercises across the schools as well, where we start to embrace the talent that we have in the school. It is not sufficient for us simply to, enter our students in NIFCA, award them, and then after that, and this young lady is here going, and I know most of you agree. I've gone to several exhibitions. I've seen the talent of our young people, but then we don't see it displayed anywhere else. We need to make sure that all of these students not only pass this ministry and can say as they pass here, oh, I was part of this process, but within their school, they need to be able to lay claim to things that they have done, and generations to come be able to come to the school and say, we were a part of creating this particular mural. This represents a part of who we are. Because it is only when you start to take pride in what you have and what you do that you're going to respect the property that you have been given. Today, the cultural and creative industries worldwide are providing excellent opportunities for entrepreneurship and for the forging of international partnerships through the exportation of talent. Our global digital age means that our students and youth need not be stymied or limited by our own national borders. These digital natives who have become adept at YouTubing and Instagramming, a concept which my Chief Education Officer has now come to accept that she has also to embrace, and others in the ministry, are now capable of leveraging their own creative talents beyond the boundaries, while creating a global window for others to see into the culture and lifestyle that represents Barbados. This new power in the hands of the cultural practitioner has become even more evident in, for instance, the music industry, where talented musicians are able to bypass traditional record labels and chart their own musical paths through leveraging the power of social media and the online streaming of music. Now we have to get serious, because it cannot be that for these young people it is only about attaining a certificate. Within the curriculum, we also have to teach them about using the available technology to become their own businessmen and women, to be able to depict through what they sketch, through what they create, an opportunity to be able to make money not just in Barbados, but also externally. And so the conversation that must now take place in relation to our curriculum is one which prepares our students not just for certificates, but to be able to survive in the workplace and in the world as well. Because I expect that the story of these young people 10 years from now will be one that this journey has now started here today, but it is one that they can lay claim that inspired them to be able to use available technology to be able to make a living. It is not good enough that people do something on the side to do art, which I think is what Mr. Small was referring to. We have to get to a point where people can say, just as they say they're a lawyer or they're a doctor, that they're an artist and that they're respected in the same way as anybody else with any other profession as well. So I challenge not just my officers within the ministry, but I also challenge the teachers within the system as well to be creative as well. Listen to the students. Utilize the technology that is available to create a different kind of student, one which survives day to day, 365 days a year, and not one that is sporadic in either the thinking or in terms of the generation of revenue going forward. Youth subcultures are media oriented and heavily digitally driven, creating a marriage between the Barbadian cultural identity and the scope which the utilization of digital platforms provides can produce a powerful vehicle for the growth of human capital through artist entrepreneurship. This ministry and our educational system must therefore remain committed to facilitating the development of artistic and creative skills to drive our nation's competitiveness on a global stage by exposing our students to the utilization of digital platforms for more than just casual social networking. The creative and cultural industries, however, require more than artistic talents and skills. This industry needs to be buttressed by the development of sound business acumen. And this should include educating our students in a range of areas, including intellectual property rights, patenting, and learning how to market themselves as artists. Students need to be made aware through education and practical processes, for example, internships, attachments, and intensives, of the economic opportunities available in the cultural industries. There needs also to be the development of more arts investment opportunities and funding to sponsor emerging talent among our youth so that they can better understand how to move their creative ideas into income generating ventures. In this regard, we are pleased in the ministry at the cadre of sponsors who saw it fit to invest in this set of youth and certainly in our nation's future through their sponsorship of this mural project. The visual arts, which we celebrate today through this living art wall, can serve as an important catalyst in our national education journey, but only if we allow it. We can use it to recalibrate and to change the narrative, or as I often say in the ministry, it is time to change the conversation. And we must change the conversation on what it means to be an innovator and a divergent thinker. While no one discipline can claim to have a monopoly on creativity, we can fully appreciate how the creative space of a visual arts classroom can become a place for student exploration, affirmation, and all-round development, which can be both academic and skills-based. Moving the creative arts into their myriad forms away from the fringes of education so that they can take an equitable center stage as they do in STEAM will be critical at this juncture in our history. We at the Ministry of Education remain committed to leveraging all areas of education as we seek to cater to learner diversity in a way that ensures Barbados' sustained development and creative competitiveness on a global stage. Let us move beyond the spark to which I alluded earlier and set this fire going for ongoing creative development. Let us today salute and applaud our emerging artists. You can clap. Our teachers, you can clap for them. And our master muralist, please clap for him. For today's tremendous achievement in the design and composition of the Living Arts Wall to be unveiled at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the moment that we have been waiting for is upon us. And I wish to invite those of you who are under the tent to gather closer for the actual unveiling by the Honorable Minister. We need the students a bit closer with the Minister, and the others can gather here. Simone. It's small. How are you doing? Another round of applause for our students, please. Ladies and gentlemen, let's reassemble for the vote of thanks, please. At this time, I want to invite Mrs. Denise Charles, Education Officer, to offer the vote of thanks. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Minister of Education, the Honorable Santia Bradshaw, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Senator Dr. Ramel Springer, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mrs. Jeanette Phillips, Chief Education Officer, Mrs. Karen Best, Deputy Chief Education Officer, Dr. Roderick Rudder, Senior Education Officers, Principals, other ministry officials, specially invited guests, parents, visitors, sponsors, and media. Good morning again. A man's gift shall make room for him in the earth and set him before kings. This powerful biblical text, taken from the book of Proverbs, seeks to explain that the gifts and talents we possess are never ours for the keeping. Our gifts of creativity are meant to be shared in order to bring illumination and sometimes even disruption, while at the same time creating pathways for our own growth and development as suggested by this verse. As has been clearly demonstrated this morning, visual arts is a powerful medium of communication, which is capable of encouraging us to think reflectively about our present, past, and future, as suggested by the theme of this mural. This exercise has been a wonderful demonstration of creative movement from idea to actuality.
It was intended to be a tool for the development of our students' 21st century skills, and we were able to witness this firsthand as they met for the first time during the last week of September to brainstorm, collaborate, and think critically and divergently about what they wanted to represent through their art. This was done under the guidance of Master Muralist Mark Maynard, who facilitated that initial training workshop. This piece was to be their narrative, their own story about their country, Barbados, specifically within the context of education. Those initial sketchings of images and jottings of words and thoughts concretized over the time frame of this mural's composition until their evolution produced what we are all witnessing today with awe and wonder. This entire exercise, however, can be described as one ongoing training workshop, where these students, under the skilled guidance of Master Muralist Mr. Don Small from the Frederick Smith Secondary School, were able to both witness and participate in the mural creation process by understanding firsthand how their initial drawings on paper were transformed to scale by Mr. Small to produce what we are witnessing today. So with that preamble out of the way, it is my distinct honor on behalf of this ministry to extend our heartfelt thanks and gratitude to all those who made the creation of this mural and this unveiling ceremony a possibility. We extend thanks, therefore, to the following corporate sponsors whose donation of paints and materials were critical to the successful execution of this idea, and we acknowledge those of them who might be here today. Blades & Williams for their generous discount of the concrete boards which were used for the actual mural. We made a decision not to do it directly on the wall because we were a bit concerned about having our students so high, so we did it on concrete board first to be erected. The Barbados Sport Inc. for their kind donation of acrylic paint. Harris Paints for their kind donation of emulsion paint, and Berger Paints for a similar donation. The Art Hub for kindly donating acrylic paints, brushes, and sketch pads which we were able to use during our workshop. We also extend many thanks to the National Cultural Foundation for the delivery of technical assistance, which facilitated the unveiling this morning, and we thank you so much for the CEO who is here today, as well as for the donation of this tent, under which we have been wonderfully shaded, at least some of us. In that this has been a creative project, we allowed that creative theme to influence our decision-making, while perhaps also being aided and abetted by some very real financial constraints. So to this end, we therefore thank Exodus Printing Solutions for their kind donation of design services for the construction of our mural signage today. We also thank New Day Ironworks for assisting with the mural's erection, as well as for the erection of all mural signage. Thanks are also extended to C.O. Williams Construction for their kind donation of the boulder, on which we have the signage erected. Thanks are also extended to the Media Resource Department and to Office Management for any technical assistance which they provided in their individual. And we really want to thank Dawn and the team, all participating schools, who facilitated this process by releasing their students and the teachers. And we will hear very soon about those particular students. We're going to call them by name because they haven't been called as yet. And thanks are, of course, extended to parents, some of who got very much involved in the process on WhatsApp and everything, encouraging and cheerleading from the sides. We really thank you so much. All the dropping off and the picking up. You are very much involved in the process. Thank you so much, parents. I'm going to end by saluting our artists and teachers, but before I get to that point, I want to thank all of those who made this morning's program a resounding success. I want to thank, therefore, Mr. Junior Burgess for his very good prayer at the beginning. It was not too long. Thank you so much. Our permanent secretary, Mrs. Jeanette Phillips, thank you so much for your opening remarks and for setting the stage and the context for today's event. Our deputy chief, Dr. Roderick Rudder, who did an excellent job at mastering the ceremony. Our soloist from the St. Michael's School, and very much our minister, the Honorable Santia Bradshaw, who so enthusiastically and ably challenged us to ignite a spark for educational change through a fresh recalibration and a developed understanding of the critical role which the arts must play in the national development and the grooming of a national consciousness. And now to our master muralists, emerging muralists and artists, both students and teachers. I know you came up to the front, but I'm going to invite you one last time. This is your moment in time. We thank you for giving of your ideas, your time, and your talent. We understand the sacrifice that this project entailed, and you beautifully rose to the occasion every time, even though it was not always easy. And as an artist myself, I can tell you egos can be very, very, very large. And I had to I watched them give way to each other's ideas. You know, somebody might have wanted to do something, and then it had to be shifted, and people had to, get their right attitudes in place. So I thank you so much for the sacrifice that you made in ensuring that this event happened. I also want to thank our Chief Education Officer for her kind facilitation and personal interest in the project. We thank the media, various outlets of the media that are represented here this morning for providing footage, and especially the Government Information Service who did a feature for us before the unveiling. So I'm going to invite the students now. I'm going to call you Danielle Small from the St. Michael's School, Alexi Topping from the Springer Memorial School, Tyreek Hewitt from the Grantley Adams Memorial School, Alyssa Hunt from Graydon City Secondary, Ramona Jones from Combermere, Ashan Roberts from the Lodge School, Joshua Turton from Frederick Smith Secondary. And we have our teacher team who worked very hard with these students, ensuring that they got it right. And it has been a wonderful learning collaborative process. Chantal Fergus from Queen's College, Carrie Ann Holder from Grantley Adams. All of your hard work, giving up your weekends, coming here on Saturday, Sunday, walking with tools, climbing up high on that wall. Thank you so much, and all with a very positive attitude. Last, and by no means self, but was so gracious to share them with us. And certainly he set the example for us to follow in sharing what he has blessed us with. And for this, we give him thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedules to be here this morning to celebrate this signature event, the unveiling of the Living Art Wall at the Ministry of Education. Thank you so much. Good morning. Massive ceremonies.
Thank you, Mrs. Charles. And all that is left for me to say once again is thank you all for being here this morning. That brings us to the end of our ceremony. I want to thank all of the students and teachers, and I wish you all the best for the day and to enjoy the Living Art Wall.